teacher, Reverend Thomas, and I'm sure he's got a good lesson to regale us with. He's hesitating, so maybe not. Thank you, Reverend Philip. Divine Creator, Father, Mother God, we come before you once again with open hearts and open minds, seeking thy divine wisdom and guidance in our lives. May that which comes through your speaker this day be for the highest and best good of each one that will hear this message. Amen and amen. Good morning.
Good morning.
Morning, we're going to revisit something that I think I had presented not too long ago, probably within the last couple of years. And it was, this is from what I have been calling my morning inspirational writings. This was written this in March 2018. And it's entitled Introspection, a Tool for Transformation. And I'll read part of this and hopefully it will stimulate our discussion today. Introspection is a path of no return once chosen. One does not begin to examine one's life path and then never again. One cannot help but return again and again to this well of memories. A dream or remembrance out of the blue will stir the waters of that well, causing us once more to peer into it, to see what the ripples reveal this time. Each visit is a new perspective as we change and grow. Change and growth are hallmarks of times when introspection happens. Introspection is an observational exercise different from simple remembrance and guilt. Our higher self observes with judgment and understanding, but not condemnation. The value of lessons learned is not realized while we are still beating ourselves up. Self-flagellation may well be a stage on the path towards introspection, but true introspection will not happen until we are finished with blame and punishment. To be in a place of clear introspection, the path is cleared by other stages. One significant one is making amends. This is step 9 in the 12-step recovery programs. It is necessary to attempt a correction so long as it brings no further harm. Some amends will happen only privately in our heart and soul, when physical amend is not possible or practical. However, the energy and effect of this happens even if unknown to us and should not be underestimated. It can be quite powerful and profound, even at great distance. The patterns and interdependence of all life are complex. All that we do and fail to do has an effect. This can be a crushing realization, but one we must come to accept for perspective. Taking on full responsibility for all our life experiences also requires our acceptance of this same responsibility for others. I personally have come to a place of self-forgiveness by accepting that I did the best I could with what I knew at the time, and I would have done better had I known better. Apply this to self and to others, and the fruits of forgiveness appear. We then see things in a kinder way, and condemnation becomes not only unnecessary, but unthinkable. I forgive myself for being less than perfect. I apply this thought to my parents, and myself as a parent. I apply it to myself as a spouse, lover, friend, and to my spouse, lover, friend. I apply it everywhere emotional pain has happened, whether I caused or received the pain. It is enough justification to not want this for anyone ever again. I simply do not want this as part of a world I would choose. We must ask ourselves, what would the world be like if everyone acted as I have in the past? What would the world be like if everyone acts as I do now? Introspection is a tool of awakening. As the name suggests, we awaken from a place of being unaware to a place of becoming aware. We open our eyes to see what keeping them closed has denied us. Introspection is an examination, much like discerning the message from a dream. We must discern the message to have a greater understanding from our life experiences. There is wisdom to be gained once full understanding is found. Becoming aware of our true motivation and the consequences, but also the unintended consequences, is a bitter pill at first. Forgiveness brings us past the bitterness to a place of understanding. If we are not here to learn from our mistakes, then little about life, about human life, makes sense. Let me pause there for a moment and mention a little something about forgiveness. Because forgiveness is never about the other. Forgiveness is about coming to peace with the experience that we've had. Likely, all of us can relate to someone that was near to us that has passed. And whatever difficulties we have with them that may still be begging for forgiveness or in need of it still exist. It is not about the other existing or being in this world. It had nothing to do with them. Yes, they played a role in the experience, but once we have experienced it, it is ours to deal with. Forgiveness is never about agreement. Forgiveness is not about it being okay. Forgiveness is not about who's to blame. Forgiveness is about being willing to let go of the experience, to reap the wisdom that experience has the potential to provide for us. Being willing to let it go once and for all. It is not about anyone deserving forgiveness. It is not about anyone earning forgiveness. It is totally in our hands. I'll share a brief story that happened to me many, many years ago. The early 70s. I was working late one night. I worked for, at the time, for Magnavox in the engineering design lab and was going to school part-time. And they allowed me to adjust my hours on the days that I had school. So I would be there alone at night till late working. And I took a break and I picked up the phone and I mentioned it was the 70s. So you dial the phone. There was none of this auto dial or any of that kind of thing. I called my wife. We have 3 young children at home. And she answered the phone like she always does. And I said something, she said something, and it's, there's this automatic dialogue that happens before the conversation begins. And then she said, "What are you doing?" And I said, "Oh, I'm just sitting here thinking of you." And the next thing I heard was click. "Hello, did I just call you?" "No." So I had made one of those phone calls to some woman who I will never know. And at various times over the years, I thought about that and thought about her. And it's one of the things that I've gleaned from that, that and other experiences after that, is that sometimes we're going to be the bad guy in somebody else's life. We don't have to be bad. We're just going to play a role. And depending on how you see that, it could be coincidence, could be some sort of synchronicity. It could be a intelligent universe using us each in various ways. And I'm not going to say which that is, but that's for us to ponder. But the point is that this thing happened and this person had an experience that I presume was uncomfortable at least, and if not very frightening. She will never know who I am or what my intention was. But in order for her to be rid of that experience, for taking that thorn out of her flesh, she's going to have to forgive it. And all of the things that happen to us are in that vein, I think, that regardless, that's the bottom line. It's up to us. It's up to us to forgive and to let go. Forgive ourselves for the role we played and forgive the other for what they did. Because that's how we move on and we grow from the experiences. That's how we reap the harvest of what the experience has the potential to provide for us. And I'll share one other story that happened to a cousin. Three cousins of mine, one, Mike, probably about 4 years old, and his brothers, Paul and Ron, are maybe 6 and 8. Then they live in a farm. And Mike came crying into the house. And he told his mom that Paul had kicked him in the stomach. Well, when the older boys arrived and were questioned, they said, no, he touched the electric fence. And that was the only perspective that that 4-year-old had of what he experienced, is that since Paul was right there, he must have kicked him in the stomach because that's what he felt. And I share that simple story because all we have is our own perspective when we have a powerful experience. And we were talking about this earlier, about the different perspectives of God. And it depends on where you are in your own awareness and your own perspective, what that experience is going to be. The experience is going to be powerful, but what you understand about it is going to have everything to do with how you see it and how you go from there.
Someone's visiting, someone with a very flowery perfume, right here.
Okay.
Okay.
We can go mad considering all the what ifs. We will never know the outcome of even the most seemingly insignificant change to our past would make. We might all think many things would be better if only I had done some things different. What I have come to accept and conclude is that if I change my past in any way, I change my future, and therefore would not be here as I am now. Would all that I hold dear be better, or even be here at all? My peace in this moment requires me coming to terms with my life choices, my life path, just as it was, the good, the bad, and the ugly of it all. This moment is the only one I can change. This is the only moment I can do better. This moment is my only opportunity to be loving and accepting. This moment is only possible by the steps it took me to get here. All of the steps. Thank you. Have any comments or questions, please?
Good, really good. Timing's good too.
Oh, good. Another one of those coincidences.
Yeah, I think so. I think so. I think we beat ourselves up way too much.
We have a tendency to do that.
And we just carry it and carry it and carry it till the weight just puts us down on the ground. And we can't live like that.
Right. What I've said about being self-employed is it's the worst boss I've ever had.
Oh, yeah.
You couldn't treat an employee that way
No.
because there are federal laws against it.
Exactly.
You know, and that is a reflection of what you're sharing there, Sharon. That yeah, we can be so very hard on ourselves, and it's
Yeah.
and that forgiveness. You know, we tend to think of those that have hurt us in some way and being able to forgive them, but the bigger part of that is necessary, but the bigger part of that is their ability to forgive ourselves. I mean, which one, who of us could not have done a better job with our own children? I mean, that is a tough one to get past, you know, and the more that I understand about it, the more that I see the, you know, the immature, you know, 20-year-old, or in my early 20s when my kids were being programmed the most, you know, being a teenage father, I didn't know jack, you know. And so they got a programming that is still playing out today, and it's not easy to see it so clearly, to see the cause and the effect. And so being able to come to terms and forgive myself for not being wiser and a better parent has been something that that I have been working through for a long time.
Right there, yeah. I agree. Totally get it.
Yeah. Any other comments? Sandy, did you have anything to add?
Okay, just, yeah, a lot of, opens a lot of wounds. Um,
Mhm.
but it was a very good talk. I'm glad you did it.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's the thing that allows the wounds to heal. There'll always be a scar there, but a scar is better than a festering wound.
Exactly, when I was in Ohio with my sisters, we were going through our dad's stuff, or no, maybe it was a teleconference call we had prior to, um, that had to do with my stepmother, who's been sick in several hospitals, but now has to go into assisted living, and which was the whole point of us going to get the rest of my dad's stuff out of the condo. And they just hold her in higher esteem than I do. So I finally said, you all might not know this about Jeannie, because she's having issues with her own daughters during all this. And that family dynamic, my sister Jennifer has seen and has been discussing with, it was really weird. And I thought my family dynamics were weird. This takes the cake. And I said, you all may not realize this, but Jeannie can be very cruel. And I gave them a very watered down version of how she was extremely cruel to me when I was in a very vulnerable moment. And it's one of those things like, you have to make a decision. And this is where I kind of tussle. Is it forgiveness? Yeah, I have a scar, but I'm not going to pick at it. And it's like, how much vulnerability do you keep throwing out there to people who are going to trample on you? So this is where so my choice was to pull back and not let myself be vulnerable around my dad and my stepmother.
I call that self-love.
Yeah.
When you love yourself enough not to put yourself in harm's way. Forgiveness is not about you have to go back and put yourself in harm's way. You can forgive them and live separate
Yes.
lives, because it's not safe to be with them. And
Yeah.
you could still have forgiven them, but you don't keep going back into the burning house.
Right. You know, because they wonder, are you ever going to visit her? No. I am not going to go out of my way. If I'm in town and one of you wants to go see her, I'll tag along. That's it.
Mhm.
Because what happens with as you embrace that forgiveness and succeed at it, is that the things that compel you to have the relationship change. And if there is another round for you to have, you'll be drawn into it. But it's when we keep going back, we're trying to have a better ending to the other story, the first story. And there's a point where there's not going to be a better ending. It's like, okay, I've got everything I've got, and I don't have to keep skinning my knees in order to figure out not to do that. And you come into forgiveness. Now, in that elevated place of compassion and understanding, if there's a new role and a new relationship, a new experience to have, you will know, you'll be drawn into it. But and it will be different, and it will feel different than the old one trying to call you back and come put your hand in the fire again.
It won't hurt a bit.
So it's like, loving ourselves is part of what we're learning. We can be real compassionate with others and then just be terrible to ourselves. And that's part of the balance we're all trying to get better at.
Absolutely.
Is to, because ultimately, we can't really be a whole lot kinder to those around us than we are to ourselves. I mean, we can put on a facade that makes it appear that, but we're not really. We're limited by what we're able to embrace in ourselves as far as loving without conditions, I feel. Reverend Philip, did you want to add something?
I have an exercise that I developed from someone else's. But in that exercise, it's a meditation. But you go back and you thank the person for the gift, because that's what it is. It's a gift that you carry around. And then and you return it. You return that gift, because some gifts we don't have to keep all the time. And as part of that, you explain to them that you thank them for being part of your growth, and you tell them that you understand that you were part of theirs. So it comes off to being something of a well, in simpler terms, a win-win situation that you create.
And I suspect you can return the gift whether they accept it or not. You
Oh,
can,
yeah.
you can leave it there because you're done with it.
Yeah, you have to understand, once you come to the understanding that we are souls, period, just souls, then, you can do, well, I shouldn't say you can do whatever you like, but you don't have to be in a physical presence, because you can still approach them soul to soul. And that's one of the things that, one of the common things that I've been reading in spiritualism, as these mediums are bringing in these teachings from these souls, is that we are all souls, and it's a difference of density. And if you look at it from the perspective that this is one of the more denser existences of the soul, and as we progress, they tell us that when we die, we don't just zoom. We've got all this special powers or whatever. It doesn't work that way. You still have to progress, and it's all based on light, which is where you get these teachings where people say you're polishing your soul or your crown, or however they want to put it. It's because your substance changes as your thinking changes.
Yeah. It's an energetic change. So,
we'll talk more about that
yeah.
later.
Thank you for your kind attention.
Thank you.
Thank you, Reverend Thomas, for your teaching there. Very